Welcome to our video interview series with readers of Building Trust and Relationship at the Speed of Change. I'm Kathy Jourdain, and I'm here with my partner, Jerry Nagel, and with our guest, Stephan. Stephan, we would invite you to introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Stephan. As Kathy just said, I live in France, in the south, not far from Avignon. And I'm a coach and a facilitator. I work mostly with organizations and companies, but also work with couples. And I will tell you more about that later. And I was trained on Worldview Intelligence, I think probably 5 years ago now, somewhere around that. Yes.
Great, and good to see you, Stephan. It's been a little while, and so what a pleasure. And I do remember our time together, both in Germany for the little 5-day work that we did there, and a few times in Paris, and then when you brought us to Geneva, and what a delight that was. You were an early reader of the book and offered some great reflections about your impressions, and so we would just take a few moments and share other general impressions you have of the book or of Worldview Intelligence.
Well, I think what the book really gave me probably more details because since 5 years ago, a lot of things have happened with this practice of yours and what you proposed. I think the book gives a lot of insight on how we form worldviews and how all worldviews are welcomed. That's a very important point because to me, it's like every time I engage in a conversation, or even every time I watch a show or I listen to something on the radio, I always come with my truth. And my truth is built on my worldviews. And I think what the book really gives us is insight, information on the importance of everyone coming together in a conversation with their own truth. And everyone's truth is welcome. And that's the starting point. If I start a conversation and I'm completely open that the other person might be have a completely different opinion on something, but that is as true as my own view on the thing, then it opens up a space for dialogue to open. And I think what the books also help us with is taking responsibility for our own worldviews and how they are triggered and how they can come in the middle of conversation and discussion, how they can come in the middle of relationships. And of course, it offers the framework with the 6 dimensions, and also the share is a real methodology on how to come out of tension and conflict in a relationship. If that is where you are, go and explore what the other person is, what the other person think, the world of the other person, the reality, the truth of the other person, and vice versa. And then all of a sudden, I think the Worldview Intelligence is an invitation to enrich one's world. And with the 6 dimensions, with the reality, history, future, practices, values, and knowledge, it's a real expansion of the space that a conversation can hold. And it requires time, of course. By reading the book, I think it helped us develop some reflexes on spotting and identifying. And to me, it helped me in many ways in not getting into situations, in discussions, or in a tension zone that was inviting me not to go in there, or to go in there when I wanted to, because I felt that it was a safer space.
This is great, actually. Very, I want to say it's fantastic. And the fact that you named all 6 dimensions is pretty impressive. So you're doing your homework. That's awesome. So I'm kind of curious about a couple of things. So one is to just continue to thread in the many ways in which you've found that it's been useful to you. So, hearing that it enables you to be aware of possible tension in conversation, and then you can choose, do I go there or do I not go there? And if I go there, how do I go there? I mean, this has been certainly one of the goals of the the work and the book. So that's refreshing to hear.
You know, what I like in the book is the many examples that you gave. And a lot of them with, you know, situation where you know, I would think, oh my God, you know, I mean, we're never going to come out of this, you know, and well, yes, by applying the worldview framework, even though you have a group of people with very, very different background, cultural, cultures, subcultures, intentions, you know, desires and agendas, you know, I mean, with the worldview, well, you know, it really provides this framework and create a space where I don't have to agree with you, but I can listen to you and you can listen to me. And just that, wow, you know, so just to go back to my thing on truth, you know, it says that, well, you know, your truth is welcome. And I feel that my truth is welcome, you know, so I'm not in danger anymore. So, you know, I don't have to have my bows and arrows ready to shoot, you know, I mean, oh, wow, okay. And now we can continue with this discussion. And I think what really was helpful also and you did very well with that, is by asking reflection questions. And, you know, to me, you know, questions is what bring people together. Answers is what separate people, you know, but questions is what bring people together. And you did that beautifully. And I thought it was great that you included all those questions because it helps everyone on the path, on her own path of worldviews, you know, to explore where do I come from, you know, how did I come to think that, to believe that, to know that, to have this opinion or that opinion, those triggers, or why is it that when I come across, you know, one type of person in the street, I get triggered in one way, and when I come across another type of person in the street, I get triggered differently. And so, yeah, it was very, very nice to, and I'm also completing the course online, so I'm rereading those chapters again, and it's wonderful, especially now in this moment of crisis where a lot of worldviews are coming in clashes because people are so afraid and there's so much uncertainty around.
Stephan, one of the things that we have visited about just a little bit, a couple of years, that's really resonated with Kathy and me in our own work is how you've brought Worldview Intelligence into some of the work that you and your partner do with couples. I know that you've been doing work with couples for a long time and have hosted retreats. And so we'd love to hear a little bit about, you know, how working with Worldviews or Worldview Intelligence has added into the important work that you are doing.
Yeah, when I met you guys in Germany and I was trained on Worldview, you know, with the first week of training. And to me, it's kind of opened up. I said, well, yeah, I mean, Worldview is not just in this place or in business, or it's everywhere. I came back home and I started to share with Isabel what I had discovered, what I already knew, but, you know, the way you informed us and you trained us, you know, it's just, oh, well, I knew that already, but now I can see it with HD glasses, you know, lenses. And at the time we had already started to do work with couples and organize some retreats. You know, we felt that, you know, we have to find a way to include it in the retreats. Those worldviews come into play all the time when you are in a relationship. You know, the narrative on a couple, you know, is you have to be somewhere at the right place at the right time so that something happens, some magic happens, and you meet the person. And if it's the person, then, you know, wow, love is beautiful, it's great. We agree on everything, you know. This is the one space at the beginning, the one place, you know, usually a year and a half, 2 years, the romantic love, where worldview is, oof, no problem. You know, everything is great. Well, sometimes we disagree, but we love each other so much, you know. We put that on the side until the next phase. So it's kind of funny, actually, you know, to see how chemical working through the body, and you talk about that in the book with the brain science and so on, how it brings us in a type of relationship where we avoid worldviews clashes. But then after the romantic love is kind of over, And, it takes more or less time depending on the relationship or the number of relationships you've been in before. But, then all of a sudden things starts to change, because all of a sudden worldviews come into play. Oh, we don't like the same furniture because we just moved into a new apartment. Oh, we don't see things the same way as we did before. Oh, we don't have the same idea on politics than we used to have. Or, we agree there, but not there, and so on. We call it the power struggle that comes into play in the couple, in the relationship. And when it has many, many ways of showing up. When we say power struggle, it can easily be said as, I am right, you are wrong. My truth is more important than your truth. I know more about education than you do, so when we have kids, I'll take care of education, and so on. Of course, I'm making it kind of blunt like that to explain it, but that's what happens in the relationship, and that's when the worldviews come into play, and they can create a lot of tension and even clashes in the relationship between people. Love is still there, but we cannot converse anymore as we used to. And that's where we introduce the worldview framework, because with the worldview framework, you can engage in any kind of discussion that you want. So we train the couple to experience, well, first, the importance is the insight. It's like bringing consciousness that, yes, it's not because I love you that I have to have the same opinion and the same beliefs and the same values on everything, but because I love you, I'm going to make space, and I'm going to bring courage into wanting to share with you my truth and wanting to hear your truth so that we can enrich one another. And so we, once that they have this insight and they have consciousness on the fact that they are triggering each other all the time with their different worldviews and how tension and conflict comes, then they can engage into the framework, and they can decide to discuss one or more dimensions depending on what the topic is. And what we found is it's not easy for everyone to really understand what they are really arguing on. So find the right topic, because you may think it's about if you have kids, it's about children, and maybe it's about around dinner time and the setup around dinner time and how things should be organized and so on. And you go into a worldview discussion on that, but then you realize that that's not the issue. It's not at all the issue. The issue is probably, it could be around, how the family and when the family should get together and have quality time together. And it seems that the only space available is around dinner time, and that's when it's not the right time for quality time for it. So finding the right topic and taking the time to find the right topic, we found really help in being more effective and really talking about the real issue, and then using the framework. And we have people telling us that it's an amazing experience, because they've been together for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You could say, well, we've talked about everything we could talk in 20 years, right? Well, no, apparently, on simple things or on very important topics, there are things that were unsaid, because for 20 years, they supposed that the other person worldview was such and such, and that was the end of it. It's like, designing the boundaries between our worldviews and then agreeing that, well, it's okay, they kind of fit together, and if we can avoid conflict, then it's okay, we can move forward. But it doesn't happen like that, because they always surface one way or another. So we've been using this worldview framework quite a bit with a few of the exercises that you shared with us, that we, of course, we rearranged a little bit to make it more so that it's more at the service of the intention of the retreats. But it's been very helpful And once they go through, they take the time, you have to make an appointment almost, because it's not something that you do, in the back of the truck, unloading groceries, you have to take time to do it. And so they take the time, they have the discussion. And what's beautiful is that then they can re-engage. And when they can re-engage, then they can say, okay, what do we do now? We want to re-engage. Now I understand why you always said that to me. I understand why you always put forth your value on this, which I never agreed with. Now I understand. How do we re-engage? What do we need to do? So what action do we have to bring into our relationship so that we can, steer away from that, bring consciousness in the relationship, and go towards true love. And true love is, I love you fully. No, it doesn't matter if, you don't agree with everything with me, but, I love you fully. And it's just great that we are so complementary and so diverse at the same time, until the next time, which is another discussion and another re-engagement, and on like that.
Sounds like very powerful work, Stephan. And I really like how you describe it as, we have a discussion and then we have a re-engagement. And I would imagine that for the couples who are really committed to doing that each cycle of discussion and re-engagement goes to some new level of depth or some new level of acceptance.
Yes, and sometimes you don't have to do all that hard work. Mm-hmm. The simple fact of better understanding where the other person comes from is enough. You say, oh my God, because I always thought that you said that because no. Mm-hmm. And then because we had this discussion using the worldview framework, I realized that I was wrong. all this time I was wrong. I had the wrong information. Which brings me to the sixth dimension, which is always a wow moment. It's like, how do I know that what I know about you is true?
I love that.
Yeah? Until I've asked you. Okay, I know a lot about you. And actually, in couples, I know so much about you that I know you better than you know yourself. Sometimes you get into this power struggle again. The most beautiful thing is to give the space to the other person to tell her or his truth and to share that. When there is love, wow, it's it makes it a lot easier than when there is not.
I think this is a perfect example of how we talk about how we think with our worldviews and we think through our worldviews, but we rarely think about them. And because of that, they operate so much in our unawareness. And as we always say, they influence our communications and our relationships and any tension we might be experiencing without us being aware of it. And so what it sounds to me like what you've been doing with these couples retreats is you've been allowing people or inviting people to become aware of their own worldviews. And then through that, they also become aware of how their worldviews are impacting relationship and communication. And I love how you've taken this question around knowledge and asked this question, well, how do I know that what I know about you is true?
I mean, it's one of the intention of the retreat, and the Worldview Intelligence really serves that intention and that purpose, is that to us, being a couple is also a lab for trying and building relationship. It's a trying new things and building relationship. It's a lab for transformation. Because there's so much at play when we are in a relationship. There's so many things that we bring from our past, from our childhood and the way we were brought up and the culture and so on, that comes and replay and replay in the relationship until we transformed it. And the Worldview Intelligence really helps us with that. It's a great tool to help us transform, so we don't have to go back to it again and again. We can move on to something else.
Yeah, I had along these lines of several months ago, I had kind of just my own personal awareness about how my children are raising their children. And I was a bit judgmental about a couple things. I didn't say anything to them, but I carried that within myself. And I started to think about it and went, oh, how you were raised was very different in a very different environment. Growing up in farm life, in rural life, I could run free. And my kids are raised in a very urban life, and they're grandchildren, and they don't run quite as free. And I'm like, why can't they? Why can't they? And it's like, oh, because they're in a very different environment, and your history is very different than what they're experiencing in the present or their reality. So just let go of it, Jerry, and the recognition of how much our histories influence our worldviews, and we don't talk about it. We don't share it. Whether it's like you say, the family table, where, there could be easily something in someone's past that's just there in their unawareness that really influences how they see circumstances. And I think the opportunity to bring those things forward in a gentle manner, in a shared manner, becomes really important.
You talk in the book, you have a chapter on I'm not sure you call it the iceberg model, but you use the iceberg as a metaphor. And God knows that in a relationship, that iceberg is always there. It's always there. If you stay on the surface, I don't think the relationship is going to last very long, because, or it will, but you will not be in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You will be living together, but not doing things together, being together, learning together. And it does happen quite often in relationships that people are living in parallel, Probably it's because they have not been looking at what's in the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
What's underneath that is invisible to them, because they stay on the surface. And the beauty of the Worldview Intelligence is that it helps you go inside the iceberg and understand what is at work inside the iceberg, and what used to be invisible becomes visible. And when it is visible, it's a lot easier to treat it and to do something about it than when it's not. And of course, it also helps your awareness. It cultivates your awareness on things and how things happen, all these interaction that happens in the relationship. So I think it brings a lot of quality to the relationship and a stronger partnership.
When Jerry and I first heard that you and Isabel were doing this work with couples, we were very excited about it, because one of the things that we are so aware of is that the Worldview Intelligence approach can be applied in organizations and communities like the majority of our work, but we also understand how fundamentally important it is personally. And we wrote quite a while ago on why that personal exploration is foundational to pretty much everything else. And even in our corporate work, it comes back to that personal worldview exploration is critically important. And it's just lovely to hear how it plays itself out also in personal relationship. As we're as we're about to bring this conversation to a close, I just wonder if there is anything else that you wanted to add or say at this point.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you for your hard work and all the time that you spent, and your passion, because I've known you for 5 years now, and I've known you started even earlier. You're going at it, and the book came out, and wow, it's fantastic. Everything that can help make this world better. Worldview brings peace in conversation and in people. I can address anything I want. I can talk about anything without going into a tension or conflict. I'm not going to be the same when I meet the next person, and then the next person and the next person. It's really a good tool for people to change things, to change their view on the world, and it's not as dangerous as it seems.
Well, thank you much, Stephan, for this wonderful and lovely conversation.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.